New revelations intensify scrutiny over the September 2nd U.S. military strike in the Caribbean, a mission that killed all alleged drug traffickers aboard a small vessel, and is now raising questions about legality, intelligence, and chain of command decisions at the highest levels. A senior U.S. admiral has told lawmakers that the alleged drug smugglers killed during the September 2nd strike were en route to meet a larger vessel bound for Suriname, not the United States, contradicting earlier public statements by top U.S. officials. The incident unfolded in international waters in the Caribbean when U.S. aircraft struck the small boat 4 separate times, ultimately splitting it in half and killing the survivors who clung to wreckage. Admiral Frank Bradley, who oversaw the operation, briefed lawmakers that intelligence showed the smaller boat planned to rendezvous with the larger vessel headed for Suriname, potentially moving narcotics onwards to international markets. Despite this assessment, U.S. President Donald Trump claimed publicly the boat was heading to the United States. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also suggested the vessel was likely bound for Trinidad or another Caribbean nation. Bradley confirmed the boat had turned around after spotting U.S. aircraft, with survivors waving toward the sky, unclear if it was surrender or a plea for help, before the follow-on strikes were launched. International law prohibits killing shipwreck survivors who pose no threat. The Pentagon's own war manual requires they be treated as persons in need of assistance. This secondary strike is now facing bipartisan scrutiny, with the Senate Armed Services Committee vowing formal oversight. A central question now surrounds Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth. Lawmakers were told he wanted the mission to be lethal, but was allegedly unaware survivors remained alive during the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strikes. Bradley reportedly understood the objective as killing all 11 people on board and sinking the vessel, though officials emphasized this was not an explicit no-quarter order, which would be illegal under U.S. and international law. While Republicans largely support the administration's wider anti-narcotics campaign in the Caribbean, this operation's shifting narrative, intelligence gaps, and survivor killings are now fueling the most serious legal challenge the mission has faced.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was conspicuously absent from urgent NATO talks in Brussels on Wednesday. His absence marks the first time since 1999 that a U.S. Secretary of State skipped a NATO government meeting. Instead, Rubio has focused on Latin America, particularly Venezuela, prioritizing regional security over Europe. Rubio told reporters that threats closer to home take precedence over wars abroad.
If something's going to make America weaker or poorer or less safe, the president's going to be against it. And every single thing he has done in our foreign policy has been driven by the American people in mind.
Inside Washington, the move is interpreted as a strategic pivot and a subtle swipe at Trump's peace envoys. Sources say Rubio remains among the most pro-Ukraine voices, yet avoids direct conflict with Trump's envoys. Marco Rubio is known as a Miami Cuban exile hardliner, opposing negotiations with Maduro.
Secretary, I was told by the European representative on foreign policy, Callas, that it was discussed, the Venezuela military operations were discussed.
Not with me. No one raised it. I mean, no one in the meeting raised it.
It was raised in meetings.
Not with me. They didn't raise it with me.
On his first overseas trip, Rubio pressed Panama and other countries to counter growing Chinese influence. Venezuela's role in regional security now dominates Rubio's White House presence and decision-making influence. This as Congress is scrutinizing the legal basis for recent U.S. boat strikes against suspected drug smugglers. Earlier, White House confirmed Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth's nod to naval forces to leave no survivors during operations. Recently, U.S. Admiral Frank Bradley briefed members of Congress on the Trump administration's strikes on Venezuelan boats. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on December 2nd that the United States has only just begun targeting alleged drug trafficking boats.
As I've said, and I'll say again, we've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean because they've been poisoning the American people. And Joe Biden tried to approach it with kid gloves. and allowed them to come across the border. Cartels take over community, 20 million people, hundreds of thousands of Americans poisoned. And President Trump said, no, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the fight to these designated terror organizations, and it's exactly what we're doing. So we're stopping the drugs, we're striking the boats, we're defeating narco-terrorists.
Amid legal questions and regional tensions, Rubio's role underscores America's focus on Latin security issues. His recent focus includes U.S. military strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug smuggling vessels and pressure on Maduro. Trump reportedly discussed options for Venezuelan leader Maduro, including exile to a wealthy foreign country.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors after the
No, I support the decision to knock out the boats, and whoever's piloting those boats, most of them are gone, but whoever are piloting those boats, they're guilty of trying to kill people in our country. Yeah, please.
The administration cites Maduro's designation as a foreign terrorist to justify recent military action in the Caribbean. Despite criticism, the State Department maintains Rubio has attended dozens of NATO meetings previously, emphasizing continuity. As U.S. priorities pivot between Europe and Latin America, Rubio's influence highlights the complex dynamics shaping foreign policy today.